Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's been a while. At least it's felt like a while
Yeah, it
for
has.
us. I know that last week we had an episode where we came out, but for us, we hadn't recorded in a bit, so I missed us.
Yeah,
What about you?
same.
Yeah.
Honestly. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, of course.
Good. Good. Because I was like, no, I missed Lula and Kes podcast.
Yeah, and we hope you guys liked our, highlight videos, our
Yes.
vlogs and everything. Um, you know, After this month ends, we're going to be launching season 2, and so there's going to be a lot of new
Season 3.
things. Oh my gosh.
Season 3. Yes.
Season 3. Oh
Season
my gosh,
3.
I'm still stuck in the past. We're going to be launching season 3, and it's going to be jam-packed with a lot of new topics and a lot of new things. Yes, again, thank you guys for sticking around.
Thank you.
And for listening to us rant and talk and
Yes.
cry and everything. But today we have a really interesting, fun topic.
Yes. For today, we wanted to do something that I think we all can relate, which is talking about Disney movies, more so animated Disney movies.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of the movies we're going to talk today, or hopefully a lot of them, are movies I grew up with, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys will relate to these movies because these movies are probably movies that you also grew up with.
Yeah.
And maybe you can, in the chat or no, no,
the comments,
in the
yeah.
comment section, you can let us know how was your experience with some of these movies.
Did you even watch Disney movies?
Yes, what if you grew up in that household that was like, no, Disney es del diablo,
Which
kind of
we
thing.
did for a little bit.
I know in my household we did for a little bit too. Not so much Disney. I think for my mom was like because we grew up watching Dragon Ball
Oh, okay.
anime.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, eso es del diablo. I heard a cassette the other day that was talking about that.
Oh,
And I'm like,
wow.
okay. So, but I remember there were preachings when I was like 10, 8.
Mm-hmm.
There were preachings that would come out with like, no, Disney es del enemigo y el diablo. And then there were, I'm sorry, we're going off on this tangent, but I remember I saw a preaching or a recorded preaching of this guy dismantling a couple Disney movies and pausing them in certain scenes.
Right.
And then, see, that spells devil, or see,
Yeah.
that spells this, or
Yeah.
that spells this, or if you put it backwards, it says this. And I'm just
Right.
like,
Yeah.
okay. So, but, that didn't ruin my childhood, though.
No, it didn't. I remember one of the early memories that I have is that I had some Winnie the Pooh shoes, and it was around the same time that our church, my previous church that I used to go to, was in that phase of like Disney is from the devil, and everyone in their houses like threw out their Disney cassettes and VHS tapes and everything, and we didn't. We
Oh.
just didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about us throwing it out or talk like we just were like, okay, you'll watch it, but hasta
Right.
aquí, right?
Uh-huh.
And I remember I showed up to church one time and I had these tennis shoes that had Winnie the Pooh on it. And the girls were like, what? You have Winnie the Pooh? We're like, we're not supposed to be, watching Disney or like in a sense, promoting Disney,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel is kind of coming back again if you think about it with everything that, has come out with
they're
Disney.
so heavily.
Even now, you
progressive right
have a lot of Christians who are obviously boycotting Disney, boycotting Target, boycotting a lot of different things. But at that time, there wasn't, I guess I shouldn't say there wasn't reason to boycott it because obviously there's like witchcraft evil. But anyways, I digress. The point is that I was just like, oh my God, like I have Winnie the Pooh's on my shoes. And I felt very like, oh, like, why did you have to bring it up? Like, it is what it is. Like, move on with your life, But despite of that whole phase, I am a huge Disney fan.
I would say you are more than I am.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. My sisters and I, yes, we can recite certain movies, but I think that you can recite far more movies than we can.
Oh yeah.
For us, it's very selective few.
One of the it's gonna sound like it's not a compliment, but one of the dreams that I had, fantasies about getting married, was that I was like, I know he's gonna be the one if he knows Disney movies. Like, that's how much Disney movie I know, quotes, songs, etc. And I had seen other couples like growing up that like, oh my God, look at them, like they know all the Disney songs, like they sing together, blah blah blah. And then I have, my husband, Joel, and yes, he's seen Disney movies, and yes, I'm gonna out him. He loves the High School Musical movies, but he does not know the songs. And my husband isn't a singer. Like not only can he not sing, he's not a singer, so that we were going to be there and singing,
Sing.
Lion King or whatever, it just never happened. But with my nieces and nephews, yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
I mean, if
Definitely.
you didn't catch from last week's episodes with our musicals,
Yeah, that is true. That is true. The whole family in musicals. Oh God. But for today's topic, more specifically going with Disney, I think we're trying to talk about what we've learned
yeah.
from Disney movies. Because I'll say this, I do think that old Disney movies had a nice message. I don't think so much today. I think so much you really need to dive into their agendas and
Yeah.
their progressive woke thoughts, and it's not enjoyable anymore.
Yeah.
But Toy Stories, Bugs Life, or Bichos for me in Spanish,
Right.
Hercules, Mulan. I would even say Wally, I think
Yes.
still
Yes,
up there for
actually.
me.
Yeah.
Wally's still up there for me. Tangled, I feel like it's still a kind of like agenda free type of movie. Yes, they try to make her out to be very like, no, I think she was very feminine. Yes,
Yeah.
uh,
She was strong, but
she was strong,
feminine.
but she was feminine, and she still relied on este muchacho. What's Eugene?
Eugene, that's
Yeah,
right.
but he has a different name.
Finn
Finn
Rider.
Yeah, Finn Rider.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a good movie. I can still watch it countless times.
I think the first thing I learned from Disney was death.
Oh,
I think that for me, Bambi, it was
ah,
Bambi losing his mom, Simba losing his dad.
mm-hmm.
You had these movies that automatically launched you into this emotional ride. I don't think, like, to me, it's like, yes, the first, to this day, I still get emotional watching Mufasa die.
Yeah, me too.
And
No,
so death was something that was early on for me. And I mean, I don't want to say that it prepared me for losing my grandpa and my dad, by no means. But what I am saying is I do think that it's good for kids to be exposed to heavy emotions in a weird way, because it I do think, as someone who grew up very sheltered and grew up in a world where a lot of what I was exposed to was very
catered.
filtered
Yeah,
and
huh.
catered. In a weird way, having an exposure of like, oh my God, in the Disney movie that I really like, someone died, and that was painful and that hurt,
Yeah.
and it's not fair. Why did he have to die? And yes, there's those little emotions of like, maybe something's gonna happen and maybe he didn't die or something. It's like,
He's gonna
no,
come back to life.
Simba's there like, come back, and he's not.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the first themes that I got from Disney, was straight up death.
But I think I like what you're saying, because I do think it's very important for kids to be exposed to strong emotions and for them to because also I think it makes you realize I'm not such a jerk. I have feelings.
yeah.
I feel like it'd be weird if your kid is watching that and your kid is like, oh my God, he died.
Right.
It's like, you might have a little sociopath in there,
Yeah, yeah.
like, okay. But to be, as kids, to be able to conjure up that emotion
Yeah.
and like, oh my God, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry or whatever, I think that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I think, although Disney or Walt Disney at the beginning had a recurring theme of, a lot of the characters only have one parent, that was also something that it was interesting to me, that it's a fairy tale. And even in its fairy tale and in its fiction and its all things
I
are
see where you're going.
possible, the protagonist either doesn't have either of its parents or both of its parents. Like, it's already starting unfair. It's already starting like, you didn't have both of them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you literally can point, you know, any of the first movies. The mom is never there. The mom is always dead, or she's just not in the picture, or something along those lines. Little Mermaid didn't have a mom. Mulan did have a mom. Little Mermaid, Belle,
Snow White.
Snow
Belle.
White. Technically, Snow White had her evil mother,
And yet she did not have a mom.
and she didn't have a mom. There's a lot of characters
Or a
that don't have
father,
a mom.
right? It was just the stepmom.
She was just the stepmom. And so I feel like even in that, like, as much as Disney was trying to paint a picture of like all things are possible, and, you know, your fairy tale and your dreams will come true, you're starting off with, yeah, but you don't have your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like you already kind of start your story with something is either missing.
Maybe
or
that
not
is why
there.
a lot of these princesses are messed up.
Yes.
You know, and maybe that's the whole, like, you need to dissect that because they don't have a parent, and in some cases mom, which is the one that's supposed to give you this outlook of, you know, being, you know, who you fall in love with,
Right.
stuff like that. It's supposed to guide you, and these women didn't have a guide,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're messed. Wow. Well, another thing that I learned from Disney was comedy.
Oh yeah.
I learned comedy. Obviously, in here we might have some differences because I grew up watching them in Spanish, all of them in Spanish, and so I think there's a few movies that I'm okay with watching them in English, like Tangled for sure.
You like it in English.
I do not enjoy it in Spanish, but Wally. Funny enough, even though my first time watching it was in English, I really enjoy it in Spanish too.
Mm.
So Wally is one of those where it's if it's in English, it's fine. If it's in Spanish, it's fine. But Lion King, no.
Spanish.
No, Spanish. Has
Really?
to be in Spanish. Yes, because the again, we go back to the comedy. The comedy for me, it's funnier in
Spanish.
In Spanish.
Yeah.
You know, like there's I mean, I can recite the whole movie, but one of my favorite scenes is when the hyenas are laughing. And they're saying Mufasa, and then they're like, "Oh, dímelo otra vez,
Yeah.
Mufasa."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Ooh, Mufasa."
Yeah.
Ah, you know, that's one of my favorite scenes. And I feel like in Spanish, the voices are just funny. Like the voices are just funny, and and these three, the hyenas, they're like their accents are people I know. Their accents are,
I
you know, their
see.
accents are like, yo soy del Estado de México. I think, and so their accents are like people that I would hear in el metro and you know, and so it's refreshing to me.
Oh, I see.
And I feel like a lot of the times for movies, these are voices that you would only hear in the movie. And in
Okay.
Spanish,
Yes, it's true.
and in Spanish, I hear like the accents are, no, this is a person I can straight up hear in the
Oh.
subway or whatever.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so another one of my favorite scenes in Lion King is when they're going after Simba,
Mm.
and he se cae. You know, he lights off he goes off to the where it's very hay muchas espinas y todo eso.
Oh, right.
Right into the open field. And I don't know, I've never seen it in English, so I don't know qué le dice en inglés, pero en Spanish le dices, se cae y le dice, y si decides volver, te matamos. Ja, 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 ja.
Yeah.
That sound, that tone, it's very del DF. It's very del DF. And so all that to me is like, yes, this is my
Home.
people. This is home,
Okay.
you know? And so that one, Bugs Life, same thing. Bugs Life, same thing. These are people that I can't like. I've heard this lady. You know. And I've heard Fleek. And so Bugs Life for me, it's a comedy todo el tiempo. And I feel like I've spoken about it before. Bugs Life in Spanish, la comedia is just so
Different.
smart, very, you know, like cuando when the pulga is singing about being on dogs. It's just like that to me. It's amazing. like, repleta de perros panzones. I was like, okay, that's what a pulga would need. A dog that's fat for the pulga to eat.
Yeah, to be there. Yeah.
Ajá, and so todo eso se me hace tan chistoso. And then there's a lot of scenes that I was just like, oh my God. And till this day, I'll watch them and I'll laugh hysterically. But recently I watched Toy Story in Spanish. And one theme that I saw there that I don't think as a kid I realized it, but as an adult I thought that's very interesting, was envy and jealousy.
Yes.
From Woody.
Yes.
And I thought that is so refreshing. I feel like nowadays, and I haven't seen a lot of these movies, but I feel like they're trying to create the perfect characters. They don't do wrong. They're so good. They're so even some princesses. They're just like Belle. I know that Belle used to be my favorite. Now not so much. Now it's Rapunzel, but Belle used to be my favorite. But there's always this common theme of like they don't do nothing bad.
She's
They're
good.
so kind.
She's pure.
She's pure.
Good. Same thing with Cinderella too.
Uh-huh. And
it's her circumstance that's imperfect, but she's
perfect. Yeah. And to me, it's like, no, dude, like if you, with all those circumstances, you're bound to have something.
Right.
I get that being kind. Okay. I can be kind despite it all, pero ay de plano, So with Woody, I thought it was very refreshing now as an adult, because obviously as a kid, I don't think I saw that. But as an adult, I thought it was very refreshing that he was more human than most human characters.
Right.
Even though he was a toy. Because he was like, I'm jealous. I was envious, and that took me to do something awful. How do I recover from that? And yes, sure, at the beginning, he was just recovering. He was just trying to make up so that Andy would still love him, Pero through that journey, he realizes, no, I can be friends with him. I can share y todo eso. So
yeah.
Toy Story as an adult, I feel like it has a lot of things for you to
I mean,
grow.
Even growing up in itself,
right.
Andy himself through the movies, grows up and no longer pays attention to his toys and stuff. One of the as you're mentioning now as an adult I can appreciate is Pinocchio. Pinocchio is a movie that I don't go to as often because as a kid, it was always kind of dark for me.
Yeah.
Because you have this man who wants to have a kid so bad that it's his wish. I want to have a kid, and it's granted to him. And Pinocchio is faced with temptation, and it's faced with, you could have a different kind of life, and falls into it. And he ends up going to this pleasure island. And that is where he, in a sense, loses himself and he becomes a puppet in that area. And he starts doing things and working. And it's very dark. It's like child labor. And then you have, obviously, the kids, like they at first, they're like, no, this is the place you want to be. We get to smoke. We get to drink kind of a thing. But then they end up being slaves. They end up being slaves to their own, desire to be pleasure, their own freedom. And it's obviously at that point where he realizes, like, I need to get out of here. You have his conscience, which I think it's very interesting as a film that, as an adult, again, I'm seeing this from this perspective. It's like, how many of us listen to our conscience? Or as Christians, how many of us listen to the Holy Spirit when it's telling us, you need to fight away temptation. You need to go away in the opposite direction. This is not where you should go. Or sometimes things that seem so good and so beautiful and so attractive are actually things that enslave you.
Yes.
That keep you
Kes, are you preaching right now?
Te encarcelan. And I feel like that's the whole point of the movie, that you have Geppetto, who's so pure and he wants to give his son everything. And I think as children and as an adult, oftentimes we don't appreciate.
Yeah.
So we go and we try to find things out in the world. I'm going to go find my life. I'm going to go do things. And then we screw up. It's kind of like the prodigal son, if you think about it.
Maybe that's how he began.
And then he has this whole journey. And then even Geppetto, though his son runs away and he chooses to leave, he goes after them in this great adventure. And then they even get swallowed up at the whale. I don't know if you have seen this movie recently, but they get swallowed up in the whale. They're inside the whale. They don't even know if they're going to make it. Pinocchio ends up drowning. and Geppetto thinks he's dead, and it's not until then that he becomes a real boy. But it's like there was so many things going on in that film as a kid that it was like dark for me. But as an adult, I feel like, yes, like I mentioned, it's so many themes of realizing like sometimes as something that you're thinking it's as good as I think it is, it really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to pay the consequences, because in many ways he does pay the consequence. He ends up drowning, he ends up getting lost, he ends up having to try to escape, all because he decided to go and feed into his temptation to go to Pleasure Island. And so it's like, I feel like that was a theme that I didn't pay too much attention to as a kid. I don't know if I haven't seen the remake. I actually haven't seen most of the remakes because I love the originals as they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they kept the same theme or if they changed things.
I've only recently seen the one he's Mexican, ay, no me acuerdo cómo se llama, Tarantino. He's a Mexican producer, and he just recently Quentin.
Oh, he's not a Mexican producer.
He is.
Quentin Tarantino?
Uh-huh.
He's Mexican?
He is Mexican.
Oh, really?
Let us know. He is Mexican. Yeah, he is. He is Mexican. I've only seen his version. I think he came out this year. And he actually does it with, I think, paper, ¿cómo se dice? Maquetas or,
The puppet.
yeah, there you go. They're all like paper. The whole,
Oh.
it's an animated, but it's paper. An animated movie.
Of Pinocchio.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's sort of like, you know, Chicken Run?
Chicken Little.
No, Chicken Run.
No.
With the chickens, they're Play-Doh. They're kind of Play-Doh. Okay, anyway, before I go in that rabbit hole, because I can't even explain myself. But I've only seen that version, and yeah, it's very dark. It's very, very dark. But I think they changed some aspects of it. Not everything. I think they kept it pretty consistent, but I do think they changed some. I don't think they called it a Pleasure Island. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think it was something different. But yeah, even when I was watching that, I felt like, dude, this guy is very ungrateful. Like, here he is, you know, this.
He has life now.
Yeah, y quiere ir a hacer lo que se le dé la gana. But aren't we all like Pinocchio at some points, you know? When it comes to dark movies, I feel for me Dumbo was dark.
Oh, Dumbo.
I never seen, bueno, yo lo dije en español, Dumbo. I've never seen Bambi. And I've heard that Bambi is dark, but I've never seen it.
Okay.
Pero Dumbo me
tough.
daba mucho as a kid. And now as an adult, I feel like I would handle it better. But as a kid, it made me feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like, it was very like, oh, yeah, I don't want to watch it. Like, it made me feel bad.
Because they would make fun of him.
Ajá. Pero
And
no
then the
nada más.
mom.
Ajá. Es que te das cuenta que they were slaves.
Yeah.
That was the theme of the movie. They were pretty much like slaves, everyone.
Right.
And then the way they were just up for everyone to watch them and
To
everything.
do. Yeah.
And so it made me uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable.
I think the hardest scene for me is where it's my baby and she's like cradling him and he's crying.
Yeah.
Like,
Las gototas.
I think that movie, what the main theme was for me, it was there's nothing like the love of a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because to her, he was beautiful.
Yeah.
And he had these huge ears, but obviously everybody's laughing, and for her it's like she's upset and she's like, how could you like make my son feel this way, or how could you laugh at something that is mine?
Right.
You know? And so obviously like that to me was always like something that I felt like there's nothing like a love of a mother.
Yeah.
You know, like your mother's always going to believe, even if the world doesn't. Tú para mí eres la más hermosa del mundo, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, one of the things that I like from some of the modern movies, only two. I've only liked two modern movies. Zootopia, because
Oh,
I love
mhm.
the humor. I know this
Yeah.
sounds weird. Did you guys ever have crushes on animated characters? Just me? I
No,
did.
I did too.
I had a crush on Simba and
Same.
Kovu,
Same.
and also Nick from Zootopia. And obviously, I would have been an adult by then, when it came out. But I loved, I like his voice. I like
Yes.
his expressions.
That one I like in,
Um,
in, in English.
and
Mhm.
so I liked, but that whole story is about racism if you really
Yeah.
pay attention. And so I like the way that they were created. I've always liked movies that take you into a world that you don't see, like
Mm-hmm.
Bug's Life, like
Mm-hmm.
even I don't think there's a lesson in the movie, but I like the creativity. Wreck-It Ralph. I've
Oh
always
yeah.
liked the creativity, and it's a game, and then you're in the
Mm-hmm.
internet,
Mm-hmm.
right? But Zootopia, it's just the idea of these different animals, and they're
Right,
in the
and their
like the
habitat.
sloths,
Yes.
being the DMV, like that to me was like,
At the place
man,
that
that is
you at the
creative.
place that you wish it would
It
go
would go
fast,
faster.
but no. And then it's the reality. You go to the DMV and you spend hours on the DMV, so it made sense for them to put those lots there.
I loved the way that they talked about racism
Racism.
in that film.
Mm-hmm.
But the other film that's also modern that I was like, I actually really liked it, even if it might actually two. No, there's two. Inside Out and Encanto. I think both of those films
Really?
do a good job of talking about emotions.
Mm.
And I know that, again, con balance. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that we should. Yeah, although I am in favor of talking about mental health, and I am in favor of yes, take care of your mental health. I do think we live in a world where we emphasize too much about mental health.
Right.
That I think I think we were having a conversation the other day, and we were talking about how nowadays people who really have severe mental disorders oftentimes don't get the help that they need, because we have a generation that everybody is dealing with anxiety, everybody is dealing with depression, everybody has some sort of mental health instability. And I think that as someone who has struggled with anxiety herself, I think that what we fail to realize is that anxiety and feeling sad is a part of the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I don't believe, a mental health issue. I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference between a mental health disorder, a mental health, this is a person that really, has an unstable mind or needs help. And I think there's a lot of us that, we all are like, none of us should feel anxious. And so because none of us should feel anxious, all of us, we're all unstable. We all have disorders, and I don't agree. But again, going back to, I like certain films to have certain heavy emotions for kids. I do think that in the film Inside Out, they do a good job with saying it's okay to be sad.
Mm.
And I think that, though I don't think it should encourage you to be like, okay, it's okay for me to be depressed, and I should live in this forever, and I shouldn't actively try to do what I can to get out of that emotion or get out of that state. Same things with anxiety. I think it's a good thing that they find the value in, this is an emotion that as a human, God allowed us to have.
Right.
It's not like it's bad for us to be sad. And especially as someone who has lost, I feel like even there were times when we would talk about grief, and you were like, guess it's okay for you to be sad. And then there were times where I would have moments where I was like, man, why do I feel happy? Aren't I supposed to feel sad? No, even in your grief, it's okay. It's okay to feel joy.
Yeah.
And so there's like, I think it's such a simple story of how just moving houses, moving cities is hard for her. But I think it's a good thing to learn young. It's okay for you to be sad. It's okay for you to have that emotion. It's not healthy for you to be on the extremes, neither to be always happy, which in the film Joy is obviously the one that's like,
super exciting.
I want to be happy all the time. But at the same time, it's also not good for you to be on the extreme of always sad. It's learning to deal with both.
Balance, baby. But I don't know if I don't know. I don't know which film allowed me to, because of course, yes, I am sad when Mufasa dies. with but I don't know if there's another movie that. Oh, yeah. Este Up. Up. The first 10 movies, 10 minutes of that movie. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. And I would, you know, like
And that's Pixar. That's not Disney.
well,
Animated movies.
Animated movies. But that movie, I think I even though it was for kids, it was amazing how they also reached out to the adults, because you were able to to feel like, oh my gosh, she died, and they never had kids, one thing that she really wanted. They never, had their adventure because things just kept happening to them. But they loved each other so much that even after her death, he's still pining over her, and he's willing to go on this adventure. And then the end, where he realizes, for her, I was the adventure, we were the adventure. And so that whole movie, uh it was just like, oh my god.
Oh yeah.
It was, the first 10 minutes, it was just heavy, and then the end, where he realizes
It was us.
it was
our
us.
life.
It was our life that was the adventure. I'm like, oh gosh, like why do they do this? And then going back to Disney, Wall-E is also another one that I thought it was very interesting how they were trying. First, Wall-E has human emotions, so I thought that was very interesting. And then I also thought that it was very interesting how Eve wasn't really a human per se. They didn't have really good, human emotions per se. But after, having certain interactions with Wall-E and everything, Wall-E brings that out of her. Like that of like feel, be present. Like that whole the way they're dancing and in space.
Right.
That to me is just like, that's when he brought it out of her,
Yeah.
to be human, or to have human feelings. And I thought that was brilliant.
When he watches the film and he's trying to make it happen with her.
Yeah.
I think it's so sad when she's like, she resets in a sense. Like she got the plant and she shuts off. I think that was like, what do you do when the people around you shut off? How do you help someone in that situation that's like, you're trying to like be like, hey, like, how can I help you? And it's like, he's desperate and trying to do different things. Yeah. And he's also dealing with his own grief of like, I tried this and it didn't work, And so like, I don't know, that movie is like, it's super emotional.
It's very emotional.
Really,
and I think that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite, because it's emotional in a very simple way.
Yeah.
Like, they're just trying to evoke in you simple feelings of loving, what do you do, or rather, how must you feel when you try once and twice and 3 times and this person's not giving in?
Yeah.
But you still don't give up, and then when she finally reciprocates,
yeah.
and it's like, and then towards the end, how he's willing to help her, he's willing to sacrifice himself, so her duty, her mission gets accomplished. And I thought, isn't that love?
And then he almost gets lost himself.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like a reverse of like, you have to be there,
right,
Wally, and
he's not responding. And now it's her turn to try, and once and twice and 3 times.
And there's minimal dialogue in this film.
Yes,
and yet it's like, you get it.
I think that's one of the reasons why it's so brilliant for me, because it's very minimum dialogue between them two. Maybe the humans are going there, they're having their own thing, but between them two, it's very minimum, but it's so good that you feel it.
You need to watch
Barfi.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
It's a completely different tangent. It's an Indian film, minimal dialogue,
but everything here.
Yes.
Oh god.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I should watch it, because I feel like those movies are the ones that really get to you, because you need to read. And again, you want to test if someone is a psychopath or a sociopath? make them watch those movies because they not hearing anything. It's just visual.
Yeah.
It's just visual, and you need to assess. Ah, they're sad. Ah, this is this. Ah, is that.
I think for me, it's also like learning how to empathize.
Yes.
Because, you know, I know that that's not an easy thing to do.
Oh no.
You have a lot of people who's like, oh, I've never cried in a movie. And it's like, okay, that's fine. You never cried. There's people that just don't cry. But did you feel anything? You know, feel something. You know, obviously we haven't touched on one topic because I think it's obvious. What did you take from romance from Disney films?
From romance, from princesses, I would say this. I do think it was very.
That's what they lack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not. I think from romance, I think it was very. Ahí sí, very fantasy. The romance.
Yes.
Ahí sí te voy a decir. Ahí sí I was just like, oh my god, I wish that could happen to me. Where we just lock eyes and then boom.
Yes.
You know. So I do think it gave me a really unrealistic expectations,
Which we have talked about.
About romance. But now as an adult, there are peculiar movies where I'm like, that is a good romance. That is, like, for example, Tangled, the way Finn and Rapunzel fall in love. I think, even though yes, it's a 1 day
It usually
events,
is, yeah.
you know, todo eso. I do think it was progressive. Even if it was just 1 day, but it wasn't like, for example, with Cinderella, en cuanto la vio, oh, she's it. No. They were bickering. At some point, he took her to the most dangerous place she would get discouraged. So no había ese de que, ay, está tan bonita, ay, preciosa, cosita. No, like, she was annoying to him. And he just wanted something from her. Y that's it. Y de ella también. It wasn't like, oh my God, he's the most handsome man. Yes, I'm going to marry him. No, it's like, no, you are going to serve a purpose.
Right.
And then after that, I'm going to throw you. And I think that's what I liked about the romance, that it wasn't like desde el principio we're so in love with each other.
Right.
It was progressive, even though it wasn't 1 day, but it was progressive. And so I thought I liked that romance. And then there are other movies that de Disney que también
I think for me, though it's not my favorite film, weirdly enough, the best, I think, love story is Beauty and the Beast. Because they were with each other for like 6 months, I believe. Because if I'm not mistaken,
right,
maybe even a year. I don't even know how long they were together, but I know they were together for a while because it had a lot to do with the seasons or something like that.
She got there during spring, no?
Spring, and then it was winter.
And then it was winter, I was see.
Because in order for him to release the dad, he says, in order for me to release him, then it's because you're going to stay here and you're obviously going to be here forever. But I don't know. The point is that she was there for a good amount of time. And though he was, yes, there's obviously the whole, you know, all of the Disney stories have obviously holes in it. Stockholm syndrome in this film, because obviously she falls in love with her kidnapper in a sense. But putting that to the side, I think what I like about their love story is that the Beast isn't your traditional prince. He's not Snow White, where he lives in a castle up in the heavens and he's perfect and he's singing. He's not, you know, even Eric is hot and he's, you know, this, you know, very handsome and, you know, prince. This is a beast. You don't know what well, yes, obviously you know who he was. He was very selfish. He was very conceited. But he's just this beast. He's ugly and he's, you know, mean and ugly and just scary. And you have Belle, who tames him, in a sense. And I like the idea of her, in a sense, showing him who he can be, in a sense. And he obviously starts changing. And I think I love the song where my mother-in-law, for some reason, she sings it all the time. There may be something that wasn't there before, you know, because they're obviously falling in love and they're starting to have feelings for each other. And she's starting to realize, like, what is this feeling? Like, what is this that, you know, we're having an attraction? Right. And I also liked it because I liked that they had an attraction of the mind. It wasn't an attraction just of the physical, which I feel early on all the princess stories were about.
Right.
Like you mentioned Cinderella, even Little Mermaid, it was an attraction of physical. But in their case, it's like it wasn't physical, at least not for Belle.
Definitely not for her.
It was who he was. It was that. And in reality, when you see both between him and Gaston, Gaston was the beast.
Yeah.
He was actually the beast. Although I have seen memes where it's like Gaston was willing to settle down. Gaston was like handsome in the village. Gaston had money. Like there's a lot of like, you know how memes tend to tell you like, oh, Disney what it teaches you or whatever, and it's like technically between the two, he was the better option because he had it all together in a sense. Obviously, like, because they were even saying like he cared about his health because he exercised and ate a lot of protein. He was obviously attractive. He was important. He was an important person in the village. He was handsome. Everybody wanted him, but he wanted Belle, so he was loyal. There was just a lot of elements that in the meme it said. But I like the love story between Belle and the Beast, and then obviously with his transformation y todo, ¿verdad?
Pues sí, pues sí. I think there's another movie that I like, the romance.
Mulan.
Mulan, yeah. I think Mulan, again, very progressive. It wasn't right off the back. I mean, she was a man for most of it, you know.
He was also probably not there for her looks.
Exactly. And I do think that even though one can say the romance started after he realizes that she's a woman, I do think that for him it was like admiration. Like, man, she did all of this, and she's amazing. She's amazing. I need to find out more. I need to figure out where, like, what's going on.
Yeah.
For her, yes, of course, maybe for her it started earlier, but for him, I do think that he had some like friendship with him when he was a guy with Mulan, but after that it was more like, oh wow, like she's a big deal, you know, and like I want to find out more, and I thought that was interesting. Maybe not so much romance, but I do think it was like había un respeto de eres una gran mujer, and I want to find out more.
Yeah,
I like that, and I think that's the two movies that Hercules.
love Hercules.
I love Hercules. I think that's a movie I was trying to.
I don't know what the lesson is there.
Pero there are a lot of lessons there. Yes, look, the first one, don't be cocky. He was cocky, and then what happens? His strength gets taken from him.
True.
So that one. Second one. Sometimes people that tell you they love you, they might, but they can still betray you.
Okay, right.
You know? So I was like, hey. And then sacrifice. I think he was willing to sacrifice himself. The sacrifice is a recurrent theme for Disney movies.
For someone who didn't deserve it.
Yeah, but for someone who didn't deserve it. And then I thought that it was good to show her that she could have a second chance in a way for Megara. I think Megara realized, man, like I messed up. But also she was a product of her surroundings. She was which is why I liked her, because she was flawed. She was flawed, you know. Okay. She was in that situation because she made a contract with Hades, and so she was still heartbroken porque la habían dejado. Right? She got dumped.
Okay, I have a question. Since you like flawed characters, why wasn't Encanto one of your number ones?
I thought it was heavily progressive. I thought it to be very progressive, and it was.
I think the why I liked it was because.
And I don't know why, pero la muchacha, la de los lentes, se me hace annoying. Yes, flawed, but annoying.
I think to me it's because I resonated with, in some ways, the family dynamic. And so there were elements of the film that I was like, I get it. I get it. We've done things like that. We've brushed things under the rug like that. We've not really dealt with, our
I see.
issues like that. And so I think that was part of it. I related to it. Luisa reminded me of my sister. She's the strong one. She's the one that in many ways, like I see her and I'm like, you can't do no wrong. Like you're just strong. So there were just elements there. And then I also have a sister that's very much like the other sister, the perfect sister. She can't do no wrong. All in all, I saw a lot of elements in my family that I connected with the film.
I see.
But I also can understand the yes, at the time when it came out, yes, there were a lot of things that were pushing, in a sense, a certain kind of agenda, but I still liked it. And I liked that all of the characters were flawed. Not from the grandma to literally, obviously, Bruno, they're all flawed. And so I liked that you could kind of identify with one of them.
Yeah. I think, I just remember, because I remember when we talked about crushes, and I told you that my crushes have always been the bad boys, the flawed characters.
Right.
And now I'm thinking, oh my God, that is true. My favorite characters are flawed.
Like Finn.
Yes, and
And Kovu.
Yes. Even Simba,
Even Simba.
Even Simba. I know he was young and everything, but even when he was all grown up, he was still flawed. He was still scared. He was still like, no, I'm not gonna go back. Like, wife. He was having this mindset of like Hakuna Matata. Like, I'm not gonna worry about anything. And so, and even when he comes back, because he's still under the idea that he killed his father, or because of him, his father died. Even in that, coming back, he was willing to like, yeah, I admit it, but I'm here. I want to do things right. And and there's a scene that I really like about The Lion King, cuando el chango, ¿cómo se llama
Rafiki.
Rafiki le pega con el palo y le dice, wow, eso dolió. Y el otro dice, oh, sí, el pasado puede doler. Y le dice, pero puedes o aprender de él o huir de él. And that line, it's amazing because it's the truth. Yes, the past hurts, but you can either stay the way that you are and keep running away like he's been doing, or face it and move on and learn from it. And I thought, amazing. That's a line that we should all.
Lion King might be the best film.
And then you also have another ideology, which is Hakuna Matata. No worries, live your life worry free.
Balance.
And you have to have balance, porque también el llevar, and I think that's why Simba at the end is like the epitome of a good balance between, I'm not going to worry, but I'm still going to do my duty. I have my responsibilities. So I'm going to combine that. And I thought, yes, the second film comes around and he's a very overprotective father, yes. But still, I think he carries himself with this idea of, I want to have balance. Porque, the movie clearly opens up with, we're all feeding each other. We're all serving a purpose.
Yeah.
El purpose. Cuando le dice, le dice que no, nosotros cazamos cebras. Dice, sí, pero la cebra se muere. ¿Y qué comemos? Nosotros nos morimos. ¿Y qué come la cebra? El pasto. And so todo eso se me hizo como, oh yeah, the circle of life makes sense. And you know what? Yeah, maybe The Lion King is a more complete movie.
It is.
Has a lot of lessons. Death, how to deal with guilt.
Romance comedy.
How to come back from a mistake or from what you thought was a mistake.
Which it was a mistake, him running away.
True.
Even through his grief, it's a mistake for him to have run away from his mother.
Right. So I don't think Disney movies do characters like that anymore. I do think that they either do flawed characters where it's very
too
agenda,
much fun, maybe.
Yeah, where it's very too much agenda, too much progressiveness, or they just do a perfect person that doesn't do bad, doesn't bully, doesn't do anything, doesn't, is a good kid or whatever. And it's like, no, dude, like, you see, yo crecí sin un parent. I'm not good. Like, a lot of these
Crecí con los
princesses,
dos y I'm not
a lot of these princesses are in need of, like, you need to be flawed in some way.
I think ultimately, the reason why, we decided on this is because I do think that films have an influence in how you kind of grow up.
Oh, yeah.
And what
Uh-huh.
you tend to dream about and what you tend to fantasize about, and it kind of shapes you. I do think I was heavily shaped by Disney Channel personally. I really watched a lot of Disney Channel. Not so much Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, but for me it was Disney Channel. And yes, I have seen obviously how things have changed. Things are obviously, like you said, there is an agenda, but I still think that as an adult, I can look back at least at those films and find value in it, and find like, okay, yes, I probably took at the time, I focused more on the fact that, Eric and Ariel were kissing, and that's what I took from it. Like, ooh, what is that? And I didn't pay attention to more of the story. But I think now as an adult, I can see like, oh, okay, I find the lesson now.
I find the lesson.
Yeah.
Is there a movie, just to close it up, is there a movie that you watch and you're like, I don't know what I watch?
Like it has no
It has
lesson,
no
nothing.
lesson.
It's like a dumb movie.
Because even in the movies, Disney movies that have an agenda, you can still find a lesson. There's still, tiny, como les dicen, tiny nuggets that you're like, oh, well, that's a good one. Like, for example, Encanto. It's not my favorite, but I would say that the abuelita realizing that
she's been hurting her family.
Yeah, and not just hurting her family, but she's had really high expectations when she herself no tiene mucho que aportar, por así decirlo, I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing for people to realize that sometimes parents might have very, very high expectations for you, and it's okay not to meet those expectations. Either way, it's okay for me to know to realize that people can't meet my expectations. Y yo también tengo mis cositas. Y on the other end, it's okay for me to not meet those expectations porque no son mis expectations. I want to meet those, but it's not who I am in a sense. So I thought that was a good thing. Pero there has been films for me that I've watched and I'm like, why?
Like which one?
Why? Ay, ¿cómo se llama? Bruno?
Is it a dog movie?
No, they're fishes. I think the whole idea of it is they were trying to shine light on homosexuality and how homosexuals oftentimes hide themselves so that others don't feel uncomfortable. So these family or these two kids, I think they're fishes. But when they come to land, they grow. They're humans. They're just like human kids.
I see.
And I thought it was a waste of my time.
Oh, okay. Like acceptance.
Yeah, acceptance. Because, you know what? Had I not read that before watching it, maybe I could have enjoyed it more. But because I read what they were trying to do with the movie, I was like, I was already put off.
Oh, I see.
So I think for me it was just like, oh gosh, another one of those films, and no.
Honestly, I haven't watched a lot of animated films yet, like recently, that I could honestly say it was a waste of my time. I don't really have anything, but I know there has been obviously films that I've watched that it's like, even films that aren't animated that you're like, I don't know what the point of that was, but nothing really comes to mind.
No. Did you ever watch Thumbelina?
I like Thumbelina.
Yo le digo Pulgarcita. A mí me gusta Pulgarcita, pero there were
annoying.
She is annoying, but there were a lot of scenes that were freaky. That
as
a kid.
What is it? It's una cucaracha.
El beetle or whatever.
Beetle. Uh-huh.
A lot of the scenes. No, even when she's with the
frog.
that whole scene, like la mom with her knuckers out.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, oh God, oh wow.
Yeah.
You know, that movie was very gnarly for me to watch.
It was. So
Even
was Fern Gully. Fern Gully was scary. I don't know if you ever saw that film.
no, it doesn't sound. And maybe en español es diferente, pero
Ferngully?
so what is it about?
It's Avatar that's animated. Have you seen Avatar?
I've seen Avatar.
Same concept.
Oh,
Guy turns into a fairy, goes into the fairy land, and there's this machines that are trying to get rid of the forest, and they band together and they manage to save their Fern Gully tree. It's Avatar.
pretty much.
It's the same thing.
Oh, okay. No, I had, but I haven't watched it. But anyway, have you ever seen? Do you know Studio Ghibli?
Yes.
Have you seen any of
You know what?
movies?
I'll give it to you right there. I found a movie that I know you love it. Spirited Away. I cannot stand Spirited Away. For those of you that are fans, I am sorry. But that movie scarred me for a while. That the black figure, I don't even want to know its name. I don't even want to know its name. The and it's just there, and then I know there you could get some lessons there. I've actually read heavily on like what was the point of it because I needed to find sense of what I watched. But it was so freaky, that black thing that was just consuming everything. Oh no. And then the parents turn into pigs, and oh no. I cannot with Studio Ghibli.
I am a fan of Studio Ghibli. I know we said Disney movies, but guys,
Animation.
if you haven't watched Studio Ghibli's movies, watch some of them. I won't say that all of them are good. No, there are some that are just like, oh, I could have gone my life without watching that. But there are some that I really enjoy. I think it's very. I think you know what it is for me. I think the Japanese culture does a very good job at showing flawed characters. Again, we go back to flawed characters and making them seem like they're capable of great things with their flaws.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're overcame like somehow ya son perfect. No, they still have their flaws, but they did something, to something good to whatever. So my favorite movie from Studio Ghibli is Hall's Castle.
Oh.
And it's romance. She actually I like that because again we go back to flawed characters. He is flawed, she is flawed, but they both meet each other and they both follow each other while they're flawed. And like please watch it. It's a really good film. One of my dreams is to walk down the aisle with that song. That song plays a movie that I really really like. And but I like because he is a player. He is, in that film, he's known to always be like flirty and stuff like that. And she is known to be very conservative. Very conservative. I'm never going to get married. I'm too ugly for this world. Like, blah, blah, blah. And obviously she's not, but that's how she feels. So she lacks confidence. She has a very low self-esteem. So, por cosas del destino, she ends up living in his house, but she is under a spell where she's old. She's old and she's like she's just a viejita, and he's beautiful. So you can tell through the film that she falls for him, but she keeps reminding herself, but I'm old. And even though this is a curse and I'm gonna get out of it, because that's why she's with him, porque she thinks she's gonna help him get out of that curse. She's like, I'm still ugly de todas maneras. But and then pues él es bien, he's all about appearance. He's very self-centered. He's very, superficial. But through the film, she manages to teach him that that's not important. Porque look at me. I'm like in Edicia, there's a scene where she's like, I've always been ugly. I've never been pretty. And you don't see me like almost dying because I'm not looking perfect or whatever. And that dawns on him y todo eso. And then you come to find out that he himself is a beast. He's a huge, he's somewhat of a beast because he's a magician, but he's a magician slash beast. So, and she comes to love that of him as well. And I think that's when he realizes I'm lovable. Like, so it's funny because on one end, she's put off of love because she thinks she's not worth it because she's not pretty enough. And he's looking for love everywhere because he also thinks he's not worth it and he's not,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I thought that is very interesting in that film. Yes, you have scenes that are just like, I don't really get that, like Studio Ghibli is famous for, but I think they're very profound. The movies, I think I would say they're more profound than Disney movies.
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
They're very profound. They talk about another one of my favorite movies is and I forgot the name of it, but Princess Mononoke. Oh. And I like the film because this film actually talks about how industrialism has destroyed other, I wouldn't say worlds, but habitats, and how some people, their habitats, that's all they had. They're living, and now they need to adjust to a new world. And Princess Mononoke is fighting against that. It's fighting to protect her earth, protect her space. But again, watch it. It's really good, and they're very profound. They're good films. Yeah, and she's flawed.
So obviously you're getting a pattern from Lula. She likes flawed characters because we're flawed characters.
Yes.
But anyways, we hope that you guys liked our episode. It was honestly just a chance for us to get down to memory lane, but also kind of pick at some of the films that we watched and to find if there was any meaning to it. And sometimes there isn't, and it's just a film. But we hope you guys join us for the next episode, and we'll catch you guys later.
Bye.